Good morning, class. Happy Tuesday, April 14. Today's learning target is to explain two ideas. One is the state of nature. The other one is the social contract. Both of these ideas are going to play key roles in what happens throughout the Enlightenment and what happens afterwards when we start talking about different revelations around the world. Our agenda for today. First, we're actually going to review very quickly yesterday's quiz. Once again, that quiz was not graded. Thanks for those of you who did it. I think I had everybody in both classes do it except for 2 people. For those 2 students, please get that done before continuing with this video. Second thing, there is going to be on Google Classroom a question posted about the purpose of government. You need to have that done by 3 p.m. today. That should not take you very long, 2-3 minutes. Then we will be taking some notes, so get yourself prepared for that. You maybe want to write this on paper. If you do a Google Doc, that's fine. But once again, whatever your test looks like for this unit, if I use a Google form, it's going to close your Chromebook down just like the last test did. So make sure wherever your notes are, they are easily accessible for later. After we take notes, you'll have an exit slip. It's a Google form. I'm going to be using this much more often between now and May 20, whatever it is. That exit slip is your homework. It is due 3 p.m. today. It is 2, possibly 3 questions long. So not a lot of homework today, but do take careful notes. If you have questions on the notes today, your exit slip will give you a place to ask them. I will answer those questions and get back to you before tomorrow's class. 2 final reminders. 1, any late work or missing work is due Friday 3 p.m. Otherwise those grades get entered as zeros. Secondly, if you want to retake your test or your project, hopefully you're watching this video before 10 a.m. today because that's when it's due. 10 a.m. Tuesday. I will not be accepting any retakes on either the project or the test. After that, please leave a private comment if you did a retake so I know which people did and which people didn't. First, reviewing yesterday's quiz. So the average score was a 4.95. We had scores all the way from 1 to 7, so at least nobody got a 0. Realize this quiz was on something we did a long time ago before spring break. So if you didn't get a very good score, don't freak out about it. It's not a huge deal. Just it is what it is. So just to review that, philosophy is a system of ideas. These ideas are similar to beliefs. They have a lot to do with truth. They have a lot to do with your values. It shapes a lot of those things, and those things shape your philosophies too. But the definition we're using is a system of ideas. Philosophy is more brain, mental focused, not so much heart or soul focused. Natural laws and rights exist from birth. You are born with them. They cannot be taken away, and they should be protected by government. Enlightenment's nickname is the Age of Reason. So if I use the words Age of Reason, that's the same thing as the Enlightenment for our intents and purposes. Things that did not change. This was not a shift towards faith. This is going to be a shift, if anything, further towards the secular, which is non-religious or indifferent to religion. It will be a shift towards skepticism, individualism, and logic. This is not to say that these things don't have a place in religion and faith, but oftentimes these things, especially today, actually take people further away from religion, closer towards something else. True or false, the Enlightenment helps strengthen absolutism. That is a false statement. It's going to tear absolutism apart. We will focus more specifically on that in the next unit on global revolutions. Scientific method was the type of thinking used in the Enlightenment, not just for science, but for things like politics, government, religion, and the economy as well. In the scientific method, you state problems, you ask questions, you create a hypothesis, you hypothesize. You will read and research and gather information. You will do experiments. You will analyze your results. You will draw conclusions and determine whether or not your hypothesis was correct and whether or not you can answer the question and solve the problem that you stated and asked before. Last one, how did the scientific revolution help start the Enlightenment? Once again, it's not just the science. It might do all of these things, But the Enlightenment's a time of ideas, it's a time of logic, a time of reason, so it changes how people think using reason, observation, and natural laws. That's what makes the Enlightenment happen, not so much the actual scientific discoveries that emerge from it. So once again, this wasn't graded. I just wanted to review. I'm going to try to do a little bit more of that between now and the end of this year, just to try to make sure everyone is where they need to be. Before we take notes, you need to answer this question on Google Classroom. What purposes, roles does government have? I am looking for multiple examples. On Google Classroom, it will tell you exactly how many. Please answer that question before you start taking your notes. So maybe pause this video, go answer the question. Make sure you read the question carefully and follow the expectations. This is not like one specific right or wrong answer. There's probably going to be lots of different ideas about what purpose and role government has. Basically, what's the job of government? Not just in the United States, but everywhere. What should government do for the people? Give me several examples for that before we move on with notes. Before spring break, right before spring break started, I asked you guys to do a survey asking you a couple of questions. I just want to share some of your answers, just a few, for 3 of those questions. So first, it asked you to explain what you think teachers are responsible for when it comes to your education. Some examples, I'll let you read them on your own, but teaching to the best of their abilities, respecting, guiding students, meeting students halfway, giving them time, resources, but not babying you, make sure students put in the work, get through a certain curriculum, especially as a Christian teacher, to teach how that curriculum applies to our lives. For students, they are responsible to turn in their work, complete their work, do it on time, do their hardest, communicate problems or questions. I chose this one because I really, for the world history classes I teach, am encouraging you to do the last part, which is communicate problems and questions you have. Can't emphasize that enough. I know I sound like a broken record. And then the last question that we'll go through is, you don't like it when other students in your class, and I know we're not in real class right now, but when they put someone down for learning differently than them, or put someone down because they're slower or more confused, instead of building each other up. Couldn't agree more, which is why I chose it. When students don't work hard on group projects, we're not going to do a whole lot of those just because of the situation we're in, but we might do some stuff with groups. And the last one we'll go through is they are rude, they put learning down, they don't care. These are things that some students don't particularly like when others do that in class, whether it's remote learning or otherwise. So that's just kind of set in the backdrop for what we'll talk about today. We're going to talk about 2 things. One is the state of nature, the other is the social contract. You should have notes out. Pause the video if you don't. Get your notes out. We're just going to go through these 2 ideas, which you will be using often throughout this unit. If you do not understand what the state of nature is, or if you do not understand what the social contract is, by the end of this video, you need to ask me questions on Google Classroom, or if it's more urgent than that, send me an email. You will not be successful the rest of this unit if you don't understand the social contract and the state of nature. In fact, you might not be successful in the next unit, because the next unit on revolutions will be based on these ideas as well. So first, the state of nature. What would school, this class, whether online or at school, look like if we were in the state of nature? Well, first, the state of nature is a human condition. It's an environment. It's a situation before there's government, before there's laws, before there's rules. It's basically humans on their own. There is no one and nothing that governs and controls them. They have to figure life out and do things, quote, on their own. The specific quote there at the bottom is, no one can be put out of this estate and subjected to the political power of another without his or her own consent. So you cannot be subject to government political power unless you give consent. That is the state of nature. Don't worry so much about memorizing this direct quote here. Focus more on just the idea that the state of nature is a human condition, a state of existence before there's government, rules, and laws. Humans are on their own. I don't know how many of you watched this. I've watched part of one of these movies. I personally think they're stupid, but I also don't like movies. So that's really not a whole shocking thing. But basically, the state of nature is what many people think the purge is like, where suddenly there's no laws, there's no enforcement, there's no government, and you can go do whatever you want. And humans are left on their own just to survive. Now, you don't have to think that the state of nature looks like what the purge depicts it to look like. But that's kind of the idea we're getting at for what the state of nature looks like. Right, so if we focus on the classroom and what our class would look like, questions you have to ask. Should all the rules be made by the teacher? If you want to expand it, should all the rules be made by the government, the president, Congress? Should students have any voice in how the class runs? Expand it. Should citizens have any say in how government works? How rules and laws are created? What rules and laws are created? Do the students or citizens have any say or voice in the matter whatsoever? And then third, is there any specific rights, inalienable rights, that students, expand it to say citizens, have that cannot be taken away from them and must be protected by the government? These are the questions that the Enlightenment is going to ask about the state of nature. And these are the questions that they have to answer to figure out what government looks like. And these answers are going to shape the type of government that's going to be created by various places around the world. So that's the state of nature, the human condition without rules, laws, humans on their own. Transitioning, now we're going to talk about the social contract. Realize the social contract and the state of nature go hand in hand. They are related to each other. There's a connection there. Social contract is an agreement by which people give up their freedom to a powerful government in order to avoid chaos. So what is happening is the people, the citizens, are going to give up some of their freedoms, give up their state of nature where they're on their own, let government have that power with the goal that society and the country is not going to go into chaos. And that if people don't give up their freedom and each individual person has unlimited freedom, then society will go crazy. Chaos is imminent. So once again, what the people have to figure out is what freedoms do you give up, how much power do people give up and give to the government, and then what is the government's role and purpose in return to protect the people. The people aren't just giving up their power, they're expecting the government to return the favor. That's what a contract is all about. I sign contracts. I'm going to sign a contract this week. And that contract is going to state what I am going to give to the school, and in return the school is going to give back to me. It is a relationship that goes both ways. We're meeting in the middle, so to speak. Questions you need to answer about the social contract for these countries. 1. What role does government have? 2. What are the natural rights people have that cannot be given up and must be protected? And then 3. Your answers to these questions are going to be shaped by, is the state of nature something that looks good? When you leave humans on their own, are humans naturally good? Or are humans naturally bad and the state of nature looks like chaos and corruption and it's bad? All of these are going to shape what the social contract looks like. What we are going to focus on tomorrow is 2 contrasting ideas for what the state of nature and social contract look like, 2 directions that these countries can go. Here's what your exit slip consists of. This is due 3 p.m. today. 1. In your own words. So don't use what I just gave you. Use your own words. What is the state of nature? Explain it in a way that is clear and that shows me you understand it well. Second, explain in a clear way with your own words that demonstrates you know this well. What is the social contract? The third thing and the last thing you'll have to do is optional. It is only if necessary. However, if it is necessary, you are expected to be proactive and to do it, and that's ask me any questions about the state of nature, the social contract, or the Enlightenment in general based on what we've learned so far. Your response is expected by tomorrow. Your Google form looks like this. 6th-hour class. For some reason, it won't let me schedule this to post at 10 a.m., which is when this will post. So if I forget to do it on my own tomorrow, 10 a.m., please send me an email and I'll make sure to post it as soon as possible. But answer these 3 questions, answer them well. The last one's optional, about the social contract and about the state of nature. I apologize for the long video. As a result, there's not a lot of homework to do. If you have questions about what to do, let me know. If you have questions about the content, put it on that Google form. I will answer your questions by tomorrow. Otherwise, good luck with the work, and I will talk to you then.